Part 72. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjio Old Thief. Chapter 711. The roar echoed in my ears and could not subside for a long time. I don't know how much time has passed. Only then did the darkness in front of Yebai's eyes gain some light, and he could vaguely see the scene in front of him. At this time, he was still immersed in the shocking battle before and couldn't let go. Call. After taking a deep breath, Yebai's vision finally recovered completely. He looked in front of him and saw that the incomparable white horse had disappeared, and he had also left the abyss of power and returned to the void vortex. The Taoist was still standing in front of Yebai. Taking a deep breath, Yebai tried to organize his thoughts. During the final battle, Brother's words obviously have another meaning. He used dreams come true. In this way, Yebai's understanding of the three words uneasy soul became more and more profound. It's really uneasy. The last activation of the dream came true, and the remnant soul of the nightmare wandered around the blue star like a lonely ghost. Therefore, that's why there is a saying that nightmares cannot enter the abyss. The remaining power he has left will be used less and less. If it enters the abyss again, it is likely that it will not be able to sustain the entire battle and will completely dissipate. It is precisely because of this that from any angle, the human race will not take the initiative to let Nightmare take action. Only Yingju can call upon the Nightmare in this state to help trap Xiaoao. Looking back now, it's not necessarily a nightmare that trapped Xiaoao. But Xiaoao didn't want to step out of the circle, which made Nightmare's already bad state worse. Xiaoao wanted to force his way out of the tower, but neither the tower spirit nor the Nightmare in the remnant soul state could stop him. Is this also part of Master Ju's plan? This old liar is really ruthless. But Yebai looked into the distance and seemed to be able to see Xuemeng's happy back. Sometimes, it's better to lie. Yebai looked at Xiaoao and asked respectfully. What about your teacher? Xiaoao thought for a while and explained. After Xueju got the talent dreams come true, he used the most powerful mark to make his shadow come alive. Yebai. No normal person would think of such an operation. Logically speaking, the eldest brother should be a very warm-hearted person. How could he do this? Seeing Yebai's surprise, Xiaoao added. Xueju said that when I was young, I was lonely with only my shadow as my companion. Wealth and wealth never forget each other. Hiss. Yebai never expected that. Master Ju was born for this reason. He really makes me cry to death. After figuring out the relationship between Yingju, Xueju, and Menma, most of the doubts in Yebai's heart were gone. Xiaoao left a word and turned into white clouds and left. When you come back, come to the 99th floor to meet me. In fact, Xiaoao said something similar before Yebai set off. Then, Xiaoao told Yebai that when he comes back from the maelstrom, he will tell Yebai the truth. What Yebai didn't expect was that he discovered the seal left by Xueju and accidentally discovered the truth. After Xiaoao left, Yebai looked around and saw no one. Current survival rate, you will definitely be able to go back alive, no one in the maelstrom will dare to embarrass you. Seeing Tanyan's prompt, Yebai himself smiled. Xiaoao came once and told the most powerful demon to get lost. What's more important is that the most powerful demon god is really gone. As far as the stable and invincible performance of the strongest human race is concerned. In the great whirlpool of the void, who dares to embarrass Yebai? It would be nice if Yebai didn't bother them. Yebai was also speechless. He didn't expect that things would turn out like this. At this point, Yebai quickly adjusted his mentality, found a safe place, and began to merge the source of disaster with the source of greed. According to Yebai's original intention, it should be the origin of greed that devours the source of disaster. Did not expect. After these two origins met, not only did they stop fighting, they even got married. Then, The source of greed and disaster was born. Wow, the origin of the companionship of Golden Shura. Yabai. No matter what, this is a good thing for Yabai. Now, relying on the power of his origin, he can truly be as good as any 9th level war god. Even when facing top powerhouses like Xuemeng and Lan Bangxian. Even if Yabai couldn't defeat it, he still had the power to protect himself. He is less than level 900. Such an achievement is all due to Yabai's own efforts, except for a little help from his peers. After putting away the source of the evil caused by greed, Yabai glanced at it, and before he knew it, a week had passed. After leaving customs, he walked around the maelstrom and made sure that the group of people who came with him were still alive. Seeing that everyone made a lot of money, Yabai felt much more at ease. This trip was finally not in vain. The purpose of Yabai's trip has been basically achieved. Instead of wasting time in the maelstrom, Yabai left directly to return to Blue Star. When it comes, they were a large group of people, and they looked like they were challenging Poseidon to a duel. Did not expect. When he returned, it was Yabai who rode through the barrier alone. Before leaving, Yabai returned to Changban Slope to take a look, commemorating his heroic deeds of entering and exiting 3 times when surrounded by many strong men. Why? Yabai sighed, his tone full of regret. After he left, the strong man near Changbanpo emerged carefully and said with lingering fear. Look, Shura just sighed. He must be regretting that he didn't catch us all. Ding dong. The top 3 strongest people in the human race spoke for the strongest seeds, and they firmly nailed the label of invincibility. Just when Xiaoao was about to say something more, the heavenly king's sword at his waist suddenly let out a crisp dragon roar. Yabai rushed straight to the eternal tower without stopping. Wake up! He never expected that Yabai still fell asleep. It is precisely because of this that the strength of the sword energy is far beyond imagination. Fortunately, we were running fast at the time. No, he was running fast and we were chasing him slowly. This feeling doesn't seem to be the first time. Xiaoao raised his hand to stop Yabai from speaking. Before he could give in, his eyelids drooped a little, and he couldn't help but want to sleep. Wait a moment. Yabai Gong wanted to ask, what are you waiting for? After returning from the void vortex, on Yabai's right side, a shadow of a middle-aged man appeared. The long-lost joy of taking off is back. Yabai. After knocking 3 times, the door in front of Yabai opened. In order to come to the 99th floor, he carefully selected a door-to-door gift this time, so that the embarrassing situation would never happen again. The incarnation of the sword energy of a swordsman in white appeared on Yabai's left-hand side. Xiaoao said casually. This time, there was an extra table in the space on the 99th floor, with futons placed around the table. Wilhen said elegantly and easygoing. Yabai took out the doorbell that he had prepared long ago and pressed it. Awake. Yabai put the entrance ceremony on the table and was about to say something. Arriving outside the 99th floor. As soon as he landed, a white cloud appeared in front of him. No matter what Yabai does, he will be fooled by a group of monsters and eventually become invincible. Different from last time. The swordsman in white drew the heavenly king's sword directly and placed it on Yabai's neck. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjio Old Thief. Chapter 712. Wake up. Yabai's eyelids twitched. There is murderous intent. He was keenly aware that something was wrong. Like a basin of ice water pouring down from his head, Yabai suddenly woke up. Looking at the heavenly king's sword next to his neck, Yabai has never been so close to death. Damn it, this is more exciting than the Hungmen banquet. Yabai never expected that. He only prepared a door-to-door gift, but 3 of the strongest came. This can't be shared equally by everyone, right? Looking around carefully, Yabai finally turned his attention to Xiaoao. Third brother, what's going on? Xiaoao sat on the futon and didn't move. He wants to see you. If Wilhen wants to see Yabai, just call him. Yabai still likes to go to the first abyss that turned into gold. As for Xiaoao, there is no need to say more. This has changed from weekly dungeon farming to daily tasks. Yabai wished he could go to the Eternal Tower every day and chat with Xiaoao. In other words, what really wanted to see Yabai was Nightmare. Yabai looked to the right, holding up his eyelids. Sorry, I really can't control it. The middle-aged man with an unreal face smiled apologetically. Where is this from? Yabai quickly waved his hand and asked cautiously. Big, I mean, is this the second time we've met? The third time. There is a white cloud above the Nightmare's shadow. Even if he is indoors, this white cloud follows him. Nightmare saw that Yabai was curious and explained. This white cloud can help me restrain the dissipated power and maintain it for a longer period of time. I see. Yabai knew that if the Nightmare wanted to show up, he would probably have to pay a price. This is not the time for small talk. He simply went straight to the point and said clearly. You have something to do with me. Right. Nightmare nodded. I have a question for you. Before that, you can ask me a question. Hiss. This time, Yabai was stumped. If Nightmare had a question for him, just ask him directly. Yabai had to ask a question first. Could it be that Yabai wanted to ask? What's the question you want to ask me? Infinite Matryoshka dolls belong to Yes. Ask the Nightmare, this opportunity is hard to come by, Yabai must cherish it. Now is not the time to be clever. Yabai thought about it and asked the gossip that concerned him most. That, you. Yabai hesitated. Wilhen's hand exerted slight force, and the Heavenly King's sword got closer to Yabai. Yabai. He was so busy chatting with his eldest brother that he forgot that his second brother was still holding his sword. Even though he woke up, the second brother didn't put down the sword. So grumpy. Yabai said the question he wanted to ask. You are such a gentle person, why do you have such a catchphrase? That way. Naturally it means, tell me, do you have nightmares? This sentence, at first glance, may seem like nothing. It's the kind of person who is extremely frightened by thinking about it. The more I understand the horror of nightmares, the deeper my fear of this sentence becomes. Many enemies who have fought against nightmare. As long as you hear this sentence, you will automatically collapse. It can be seen that the nightmare left a huge psychological shadow on them. Yabai was really curious. Whether it was Shweju or nightmare, the impression left on Yabai was that of a warm-hearted big brother, as gentle as jade. The warmth and jade here are truly as gentle as jade. He is not as elegant and easygoing as the irritable old brother Wilhen. As soon as Yabai's question came out, the strongest people laughed. Nightmare smiles helplessly, Wilhen smiles for fun, and as for Xiaoao, he doesn't know why he is laughing. So Xiaoao stopped smiling and began to think about why he was laughing. Abbreviation, mind wandering. Yabai was not kept waiting for too long. Nightmare smiled and gave the answer. The effect of a dream come true can be simply understood as making the other person's dream come true. But there is a premise, or rather, a side effect. Nightmare explained. If the other party has nightmares and psychological shadows, the dream coming true may very well turn into a nightmare coming true. My original intention with this sentence was to ask the other party before taking action. If there is a nightmare, I will not use the talent. Who knows, then it became what it is now. Yabai. This explanation can only be said to be unexpected and reasonable. Okay, this is very Shweju, this is very nightmare. He is still the warm-hearted big brother, and has not changed at all. If you put aside the reputation of nightmare, just look at this sentence, It is really a heartwarming greeting. The problem is, he is a nightmare. I'm done asking. Yabai looked at Nightmare, waiting for him to ask questions. This should be the reason why the four strongest men came together. Actually, I asked Xiaoao to ask you this question once. Nightmare said slowly. Do you want to be the strongest? Turns out this is the problem. Yabai's eyelids sank slightly and fell into silence. The atmosphere in the venue suddenly froze. Nightmare waits for answers. Wilhen threw the Heavenly King's sword away casually. He could kill Shura for fun, but he couldn't force the opponent to answer questions with it. The most powerful person in the human race has not dropped in price to this extent. Xiaoao is distracted. Time passed by minute by minute. Nightmare said softly, it doesn't matter if you don't understand. You can think about it slowly. When will you have the answer? You can come to the eternal forest to find. Before he finished speaking, Yabai, who had been silent all this time, made some movement. I don't want to die for the common people. Yabai's answer echoed in the 99th floor. He didn't want to die either. He repeated. As a swordsman, Wilhen is the most free and easy in his life. I don't want to die for the common people. As the old thief said before, this is a million-word foreshadowing recycling, which not only involves the character creation of Nightmare, Shueju, and Yingju, but also the growth and transformation of Yabai. He is more carefree than carefree. In fact, Shueju and Yingju both spoke highly of Yabai. The three strongest men in the field were not surprised by his answer. Who has a bad brain and wants to die all day long? I don't want to die for the common people, I want to live for the common people. Yabai stood up, walked to the window, and looked at the mountains and rivers thousands of miles away. As for whether to update it in the future, the old thief will go back and help everyone to remind Xue Meng. The fifth demon? The most powerful people in the first 3 generations of the human race did not want to die. It has been very difficult to write the plot in the past few days. Writing 2,000 words is more tiring than the previous 4,000 words. In addition, staying up late all the time has really taken a toll on the body of the nearly 30-year-old thief. Coincidentally, they thought so too. Xue Meng, you have done bad things. Human nature. Not to mention Xiaoao. I want this life. Therefore, there are only 2 updates today. Shueju doesn't care. If this continues, it will no longer be the Minjiao pendulum, but will become the Minjiao locket. In other words, Xiaoao once told Yabai personally that he was afraid of death, let alone did not want to die. Wilhen is still alive now. For Yabai, a junior, he admired him most. If there is no abyss. The young man clenched his fist slightly, and the starlight draped over his shoulders, as if turning into the fire of dawn. There was no problem with Yabai's words in their ears. Yabai looked at the world with firm eyes and said word by word. Although he died, it did not mean that he wanted to die. Regarding the creative ideas during this period, I will write a summary leaflet after the entire plot is written. These 2 sentences contain the old thief's entire understanding of Yabai, the most powerful seed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjiao Old Thief. Chapter 713. When Yabai looked back, his eldest brother and second brother were gone. He and Xiaoao were the only 2 people left on the 99th floor. Xiaoao is still distracted. Yabai scratched his head, feeling that he was quite handsome just now. It's a pity that Yabai didn't dare to take out the camera in front of the 3 strongest men. He returned to the futon obediently and sat down cross-legged. Yawn. Feeling sleepy. Eyelids are getting heavier and heavier. He hasn't rested since entering the void vortex. The fusion of the origin of greed and the origin of harm is easy to say, but extremely cumbersome and labor-intensive to actually operate. Ye Bai thought that Xiaoao was distracted anyway, so he thought about closing his eyes for a while. I'll just take a moment. His head drooped slightly, shaking slightly as if fishing. When Ye Bai opened his eyes again, it was dark again. He was still sitting on the 99th floor, and Xiaoao across from him was still distracted. Ye Bai began to think about what he should do next. Before he could think about it, Xiaoao's eyes were cast over. The Taoist's ethereal voice sounded in Ye Bai's ears. A month. What month? Sleeping on your own for a month? Ye Bai reacted immediately and asked. Your teacher can reach the summit in 1 month. This is the most reasonable guess. Xiaoao nodded. Right. Once Yingju successfully climbs to the top, his dream of getting back the mountain comes true, and the tunnel dug by Ying-san has just arrived and can take Master Ju and the others out. After taking it out, the final battle between Xiaoao and the most powerful demon is inevitable. Thinking of this, Ye Bai couldn't help but feel a little heavy. That is to say, this month is the final deadline. Ye Bai was thinking about what he could do with this little time. He wants to become as strong as possible, needless to say. There should be an answer to the question that third brother Xiaoao was thinking about. Second brother's Wuhan injury needs to be dealt with as soon as possible. Since Xiaoao said Wuhan is still alive, then he must be alive. But after that, it's hard to say. Ye Bai had a hunch that this month might be busier than the past 18 years. The most important thing is that in 1 month, if the war breaks out, what can Ye Bai do? Become a cheerleader for Xiaoao? It doesn't seem necessary. He could take advantage of the fight between the gods and go to the abyss to cause trouble. Ye Bai fell into deep thought. This time, he didn't ask Xiaoao or Tanyan, but he was thinking about what he could do. Let's go back. Xiaoao spoke again, and Ye Bai stood up, performed the ritual obediently, and prepared to leave. Forgot something. Xiaoao pointed to the table where Ye Bai Fang greeted him. He thought about it and understood immediately. Xiaoao casually moved forward, and the door-to-door gift turned into gold and floated in front of Ye Bai. Ye Bai. The last time he brought out the money tree, Xiaoao also helped Ye Bai raise his rank. In Xiaoao's opinion, Shura should do the same thing. Holding the golden door-to-door gift, Ye Bai walked out of the 99th floor in a daze, and accidentally fell down. Fortunately, it's not a big problem. Boom! A black shadow fell from the sky and hit the ground, creating a large human-shaped crater. Ye Bai climbed out of the pit and found that there were 2 people waiting nearby. Boss. Xiao Xiao stood beside the pit honestly. The aura on his body clearly crossed the threshold of the god of war, but it was still a little unstable and needed time to consolidate. Xiao Xiao is a talented person and very lucky. The key is, he is a living person. Relying on dreams come true and Xiaoao's methods, Xiao Xiao suddenly transformed from a shadow into a human being. In some aspects, even more than Yingju. You know, Xiao Xiao can enter the Eternal Tower, but Yingju cannot. If Yingju wants to become the strongest, he must undergo the same transformation as Xiao Xiao. Seeing Xiao Xiao, Ye Bai remembered a past incident. He once looked through Lian Lianqin's files in the archives. Lian Lianqin's son once said something that Ye Bai paid close attention to, always feeling that something was strange. Looking back now, that sentence should be, why have I only seen the god of war and the god of war who died in battle, but never the most powerful person? These words made Lian Lianqin break his guard. At that time, Lian Lianqin was at the lowest point in his life. His mentor was dead, the Blood Marine Corps was on the verge of destruction, and he himself was seriously injured and almost disabled. Only when Lian Lianqin learned the truth about the nightmare, he broke through the defense again. There are really powerful people in the human race who died in battle. Only then did Lianliankin's repeated horizontal jumps appear, making him a dead end for the human race. Xiao Zial must know about this. But he didn't dare to say. Standing by the pit, Xiao Zial smiled sarcastically. He can be considered a person who has seen the big world, and he has followed the fourth generation of the most powerful seeds of the human race through life and death, and his future is bright. Next to Xiao Zial stood Zhao Qian. Without Zhao Qian, this guy would not be able to enter such a deep place in the eternal forest. Ye Bai first looked at Zhao Qian and said something incomprehensible. A month. Zhao Qian nodded, turned, and left. Everything is unspoken. Looking at Xiao Zial again, Ye Bai was thoughtful. You've been doing well recently. Lao Wu is probably really crazy. Don't go back yet. When the fifth demon god left the vortex of the void, he was crazy and confused. Forcing Xiao Zial to go back means asking him to die. Thank you, boss. Xiao Zial reported in a low voice. My leader, I mean the fifth demon god, is now missing. The fifth abyss has shrunk across the board, and the demons no longer fight against our legion. Ye Bai simply listened to the matter about abyss and didn't pay much attention to it. If you leave aside the most powerful demon god, the current strength of the human race is enough to crush the abyss 8 times 10 times. The top strong men of the human race will be forced to fight against the most powerful demon god. This is the biggest problem. The abyss is nothing to worry about at the moment. The truly sensible demons are all honest now. Ye Bai is an ignorant demon and doesn't need to think too much. Just come to visit with the Heavenly King's sword, talk if you can, and change if you can't. Today, Ye Bai truly has the confidence and strength to kill the demon god alone. Ye Bai climbed out of the pit and said casually. You should stay with me during this time. Someone still needs to do the errands and other tasks. Ye Bai needs someone to help him deal with things like shadows and abyss. And he wanted to focus his main energy on defeating the most powerful demon. Boss, there is one more thing. Xiao Zial was mysterious and took out something from the storage space. A big golden tree appeared on his shoulder. Xiao Zial showed off as if asking for credit. Boss, I picked up your golden tree for you. Ye Bai. Is it surprising, is it surprising, is it unexpected, is it unfortunate or not? Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 714. Translation. What is bad luck? Ye Bai never expected that Xiao Zial could come back alive carrying this tree. Also a miracle. Ye Bai asked a few simple questions, and Xiao Zial immediately realized something was wrong and looked at the tree on his shoulder. He remembered. Previously, Xuemeng was carrying this tree, and Shura didn't even touch it. Xiao Zial's expression immediately became strange, and he had a very bad suspicion. But if this tree was really unlucky, his small body would probably have died long ago and he would not be able to carry it till now. Xiao Zial thinks, it's not a big problem? No big deal. Ye Bai said angrily. If I guess correctly, Zhao Qian has been with you before, right? Xiao Zial nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. Ah, yes, yes. Only Zhao Qian could suppress Sun Li's bad luck and save Xiao Zial's life. Don't go anywhere during this period of time. Just stay in the eternal forest, outside. After Xiao Zial was settled, Ye Bai thought for a while and then ordered. Go to Wanwu Pavilion to place an order and ask Zhao Qian to take the time to give this tree to Xuemeng. Ye Bai is really worried that someone else will handle this matter. Moreover, Ye Bai just sold a favor to Zhao for money and asked him to do a little favor, which was not too much. Soon, Ye Bai returned to his own exclusive space. Call. There is a feeling of coming home. Ye Bai was lying in the Tianxia pavilion, with a little golden pig dangling in front of him, accompanied by the sound of chewing various foods. Yabai felt like laughing inexplicably. In this aspect, Lilith has figured it out. Yabai sighed. You are happy. What can be done? Lilith swings back and forth, humming a little tune. A happy day is a day, and an unhappy day is also a day. You can only live happily. Lilith has been able to survive for so many years, and she cannot do without the care of the strongest person in the human race. Nightmare's legacy is not much. If you had to count, Lilith would definitely count. It is precisely because of this relationship that Lilith's treatment has always been full, and a distress signal can bring Xuemeng over. Yabai suddenly asked. If I die one day and no one is there to protect you, what will you do? What a joke. Lilith said disdainfully. You are so afraid of death, how could you die in front of me? Obviously. Although Lilith has not had much contact with Shura. But I still have the most basic understanding of Shura. Shura is greedy for life and afraid of death. Who doesn't know it when he goes to the abyss and the eternal tower to inquire about it? Yabai emphasized. I mean if. The golden piggy swayed slowly in the air and fell into silence. After a while, she asked timidly. What kind of tribute do you like to eat? Yabai. This guy is hopeless. Judging from the information Yabai has learned now. The blood ancestor should have faked his death and will find a chance to resurrect before the next catastrophe. The key to resurrection lies with Lilith. Actually, the matter is not difficult to guess. In Xiaoyao's eyes, all vampires look like pigs. Lilith, the little golden pig, had the answer written directly on her face. Her relationship with the blood ancestor may be more than just sisters. The blood ancestor may have stored very important things with Lilith. Even Lilith herself didn't know. Yabai could guess this backhand. But the problem is that Yabai doesn't know whether he should push Lilith. If the blood ancestor returns successfully, given the relationship between Xueju, Yabai, and the blood clan, he will definitely not help the most powerful demon. For the human race, it is also a big help. In this way, Lilith may not be able to show off. Yabai hesitated for a moment and decided not to make this move for the time being. To put it more recently, he still has 1 month left. Going further, Yabai still has 37 years. Lilith can still show off for 37 years. 37 years later, the catastrophe of destruction came and the most powerful demon god was born. No one can escape. Without thinking about the blood ancestor, Yabai pushed Lilith and helped her swing higher. Yabai, who was wandering in the exclusive space, unexpectedly discovered that Gabriel and Lucifer had returned early. The two did not stay in the maelstrom for too long. Actually, if you think about it, you know. Lucifer has a demonic origin, and Gabriel has an angelic origin. In terms of origin, these are the origins that are most suitable for them, and there is no need for other origins. For things like origin, more is not always better, but it depends on the degree of fit. Except for the origin of greed. The holder of the origin of greed will instinctively desire more origin. I understand everything. Gabriel took Lucifer and circled around the whirlpool in the void, looking for traces of Wuhan's sword. He even found an enemy Wuhan failed to kill and asked him carefully. Gabriel used both fists to hammer the opponent to the point of death, but let the opponent go. Lucifer didn't understand this. Gabriel's explanation is simple. How can I kill someone who Wuhan hasn't killed yet? Lucifer, the second best person in the world, Wuhan, is a fan. This angel is hopeless. On the way back, the two of them killed a level 999 strong man and collected his body and origin as an explanation to Shura. Yabai asked Gujin to store this account in the treasury. Just when Yabai was thinking about how to make great progress, it was even more difficult to make further progress. Master Fool came over, and the wasteland elf behind her was carrying large and small bags, looking like he was about to move. A hexahedron drew a parabola in the air and finally fell into Ye Bai's hands. Still a little heavy. What is this? Ye Bai looked at the gray hexahedron in front of him, and a question mark slowly appeared above his head. Master Fool, isn't this because the forging has failed and is he planning to run away? The tower you want. The Fool Master said arrogantly. The tower is finished, it's time for me to go back. Ye Bai looked at the hexahedron in his hand, his fingers exerted a little force, but he couldn't break it. He even bit it with his teeth and found that it couldn't be broken. Fool Master. After so many times building SSS level equipment, this was the first time she had been humiliated like this. You just inspect the goods, so what if you bite them with your teeth? Don't you know how to see with your eyes? Are SSS level talents fake? After putting the hexahedron away, Ye Bai spoke again. The abyss has not been peaceful lately. Ye Bai thought for a while, organized his words, and asked. Have you ever seen any client agree to the first version of the design? Fool Master? Are you questioning my expertise? Isn't it normal for party A to have some demands? Let's just say that I am not very satisfied with the color of this tower. What I want is not this black, but a colorful black. Ye Bai asked confidently. How can you look professional if you don't change a few versions? I'm not feeling well, and I have to go to the hospital recently. I've been writing this book for 7 months, and it's really a bit overwhelming. 2 updates a day for the next 7 days, including Yangjian. I am an old thief in the upper world, can I be renewed in the underworld? Slightly better recovery. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 715. Shiu, what do you mean? Faced with Shura's backbiting, Master Fool was already prepared. She only thought that this guy was shameless, but she didn't expect that this guy was so shameless. It's like this. The next month in the abyss will not be peaceful. Ye Bai's words are sincere and his feelings are sincere. You're going back now, who can I ask to do the after-sales service for this tower? He still wants after-sales service? Have you spent money and you still want after-sales service? The idiot master laughed angrily. How about I return it if I'm not satisfied, and I'll give you a holiday and compensate you 10%. Ye Bai's eyes lit up. Are you really going to apologize? Brother, isn't 10 too many? Fool Master. This guy is still so greedy. The Fool Master sneered. What can be so unfair about the abyss? Even though he muttered something, Master Fool didn't say much, snorted coldly, turned around and left. After persuading the Fool Master to retreat, Ye Bai began to figure out his next plan. He has experienced everything that needs to be said and seen during this period. To be honest, all other gains from this trip to the Void Vortex can be put aside. After truly knowing the truth, the amount of information alone was enough for Ye Bai to digest for a while. No matter what happened in the past, people can only look forward when they are alive. Ye Bai knew very well that even if his second brother Wilhelm's talent was related to time, he could not change what happened in the past. If you can. With Wilhelm's character, he would definitely find a way to save Xueju, and then rush to defeat the boss before the most powerful demon was born. It sounds like something Wilhelm would do. While watching the battle that day, the white horse that appeared out of thin air was probably related to Wilhelm's talent. According to Ye Bai's previous understanding, the talents of the most powerful must take another path and cannot be integrated with themselves. Great. For this, Tan Yan was particularly happy. Nightmare's talent, to a certain extent, is Shadow 9. The reason why Master Ju cannot use his talent is, it's because most of Dreams Come True's ability is suppressing the abyss. Even if Yingju wanted to get it back, he had to go back to Xueju. Most of Wilhelm's talents turned into white horses. Xiaoyao's talent is probably that butterfly. As for myself, there is no use in thinking too much. Ye Bai made up his mind and made clear his next plan. After returning from the void vortex, Ye Bai was already at level 899, approaching the god of war infinitely. With his control over the source of the scourge of greed, he could easily cross the last threshold. It's a pity that I can't move forward. Although Xiaoao didn't say it explicitly. But Ye Bai knew one thing very well: he couldn't cross this hurdle now. Once he becomes the god of war, Lao Tai, the sleeping mighty demon god, will immediately give him a fake corpse. No way. The speed at which the strength of the strongest seeds increases is terrifying. Perhaps, Ye Bai had just become the god of war today, and would have almost the strongest combat power the next day. After all, it didn't take much time for Ye Bai to go from level 1 to level 899. There is no hope of upgrading, but Ye Bai can still break through the level. Today's Eternal Tower is no longer difficult for him. The most Ye Bai can do is walk around each floor to see if there is anything else that can be missed, so as to contribute to his own tower building business. If climbing the tower was useful, would Ye Bai still risk his life in the void vortex? Thinking of this, it's almost 12 o'clock. Ye Bai had a good time, entered the Eternal Tower, and started his wonderful adventure again. Eternal Core City. After summoning the Eternal Core Crystal, Ye Bai did not rush to break into the tower, but picked up his traditional art, pulling. Hey, Taling, are you there? Are you there? It's so noisy. Shut up. The grumpy tower spirit is online again. Why are you so strong? Obviously, the tower spirit was surprised by the speed at which Ye Bai's strength improved. He just climbed to the 42nd floor, and he was able to reach level 899, with a combat power that is infinitely close to that of the god of war. Among the most powerful seeds, Ye Bai is considered the only one. After all, others are not as good as him. Ye Bai raised a sharp question. Taling, you don't want me to dig into the walls of the Eternal Tower, right? Tarling? Come again? What are you up to? Taling's voice trembled slightly, and she said with force. I'm warning you, if the tower is broken, the most powerful demon will escape. This tower is also the seal of the most powerful demon. Digging the corners of the tower is asking for death. Just kidding, look at you. Ye Bai laughed, then asked. If I'm not mistaken, this tower wasn't originally used to break through human trials, right? Right. Taling was on alert, thinking that this guy might have some crooked idea. This guy Shura is really full of evil. Ye Bai showed a smile, and his smile gradually became abnormal. In other words, you don't need to follow the level to pass the level. He never expected that buy one get two free. According to Kane's original statement, they built the tower to survive, which is completely different from the current Eternal Tower. This guy makes no sense at all. Tarling. Okay, you owe me this favor. At last. Tarling warned. Ye Bai couldn't get more information about the nightmare. For him, this improvement must be used on the last day of this month to achieve another qualitative change in strength. Ye Bai, who had to climb 2 more floors, felt that it was very hard, nodded and said. Ye Bai had already prepared and reported the number of floors. But now, Ye Bai just needs to follow the steps and climb the stairs honestly. The tower spirit knew that with Shura's character, he would never give up until he achieved his goal. Which floor do you want to go to? Nightmare is the first human race to enter the Eternal Tower. Each layer. Selecting the 42nd floor, a familiar sound sounded in Ye Bai's ears. What do you want to do? Tarling. Therefore, there is nothing wrong with what Taling said. 3rd floor. It was also after the nightmare that the Eternal Tower was open to all humans. After the negotiation was completed, Ye Bai was not in a hurry to jump to the next floor. It was a nightmare to set up the Eternal Tower like this, and now you want to jump through it. If you think about it carefully, this is the most realistic development. Is the Eternal Tower artificially set up to look like this? Tolling. With my authority, I can only help you open the third floor in advance. After you enter, you must have the highest exploration level to clear the level. Once you fail to clear the level, you will not be able to enter the Eternal Tower again for a short period of time. Tolling was annoyed by him and couldn't help asking. Tolling is also very practical. In this case, it is better for everyone to talk openly and honestly to save Shura from having any crooked ideas. Yabai originally thought that there would be at least one chance to make an exception. Fortunately, he did not forget his original intention and continued to ask his previous questions. I wish you can clear the Eternal Tower as soon as possible. Yabai raised his eyebrows and noticed the elements. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjaya Old Thief. Chapter 716. Congratulations to player Shura for reaching the 42nd level SSSS level evaluation. When the news of Shura 4's level clearance was heard, the humans in the Eternal Tower were not too excited. The same thing, no matter how novel it is, will lose its novelty if it appears a dozen or even dozens of times in a row. The same principle applies to Shura's breakthrough. For Shura, isn't this normal? Don't do anything basic. Just when people were thinking this, not long after, a new announcement came again. Congratulations to player Shura for reaching the 43rd level SSSS level evaluation. Less than 10 minutes have passed since the last time I cleared the level. In just half an hour, Shura passed the level twice with a 4's rating. People started to get restless. A small number of people who have heard about Shura's deeds have already started running to the wolf's den. According to previous practice, Shura will definitely go to the wolf's lair to purchase goods after successfully breaking through levels. Oh no, he is having fun with the people. This time, they came up short. There was no figure of the swordsman in black at the front desk of the wolf lair. Even Dai Meng, who was in charge of the front desk, didn't know where Shura had gone. People gathered in the wolf den, talking a lot, and all kinds of conjectures emerged one after another. Some people say that Shura has found the strongest source and wants to clear the level overnight and suppress all monsters in the world. Some people say that Shura was guided by the most powerful people, and he has made great progress. He will take one step further and will soon become the most powerful among the most powerful. Others say that Shura has seen through the world of mortals, has no desires, and is almost invincible. Anyway, there are all kinds of weird sayings. Listening to the rumors flying in the wolf lair, Diamond didn't care at all, she only felt that they were noisy. Which of these things has anything to do with Shura? The real Shura? Just don't mention it. While everyone was happily discussing topics related to Shura, an unexpected announcement interrupted everyone again. Congratulations to player Shura for reaching the 44th level SSSS level evaluation. Congratulations to player Shura for reaching the 45th. Greetings. Beat 3 levels in a row. Crazy, all crazy. In just 2 hours, Shura went from the 42nd floor to the 46th floor in one breath. There has never been such a wonderful level of speed. In an instant, the whole world fell into madness. People have speculated at which level Shura will stop. No one knows. The 47th floor. Yabai casually swung his sword to kill a powerful 9th level god of war monster, and yawned lazily. The difficulty here is too low. Even the 47th floor was taken away by the most powerful demon god's men and strengthened. Compared to Yabai, the difficulty level is still too low. The 9th level war god stood aside, and the Tongtian war god was not enough to watch. What's more, there is no Tongtian war god here. For by now, breaking through levels is easier than playing games, and there is no sense of oppression at all. Soon, he easily passed the 47th level of SSSS level. Bai felt that he probably felt the third brother's boredom. It would be really boring to do something simple and without any difficulty over and over again. Maybe, in Xiaoyao's eyes, the world is like this. Go do something and get it done. Do the next thing, and do it again. In other words, if something has no challenge, no sense of accomplishment, no sense of gain, nothing. The rest is just boring. Bai sighed. Boring. Shura doesn't know what it's like to be sad, so he insists it's boring just to fill the cup. Bai rolled his eyes and was too lazy to respond. Ever since he knew that Shura would not melt him, Tanyan became more and more arrogant day by day. Thinking about it carefully, it seems to be the same reason. The most powerful human race has to fight against the most powerful demon god, and there is no need for SSS level talents. Nightmare fights to the death with the most powerful demon, but Yingju still survives. Wilhen was seriously injured, but Beiju was fine. For a moment, Bai felt envious. Then he thought of a possibility. An evil thought came to Bai's mind. Is it possible to let Tanyan die for me? Are you still a human being? For the first time, Danyan felt what it means Shura doesn't do anything about people. See what the strongest people do? The strong are the first in the world, stand in front of all armies, and fight to the death without retreating. Look at Shura again? What the hell is this? He actually wants to let his talent die for him. Crazy. Do you call this the most powerful seed of the human race? The air was instantly filled with the smell of humiliation. Look at how brave you are, you can't even make a joke. Bai rolled his eyes and said disdainfully. Which one of us follows the other? We are brothers who have been through life and death. If I betray anyone, I will not betray you. I really appreciate it. After a few words of exchange with Danyan, Bai once again summoned the Eternal Core Crystal to clear this level. Bai needs to be well prepared before he can take action. Let's explore here today. Invincible, how lonely it is. If you think about it carefully, now only the 8th demon god Huang Teze, Bai, can bully him. Bai rolled his eyes. What are you barking at? Drops of black blood dripped from the Heavenly King's sword. It's a bit embarrassing to always grab the 8th demon god to improve your results. The swordsman in black, who was showing off his coolness, felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife. He is not yet capable of killing other demon gods alone. A monster who was infinitely close to the god of war looked down at his heart and saw a huge black hole there. He couldn't understand why he lost so completely. For Bai felt that he was at least 8 points as powerful as a powerful seed. Obviously, the enemy is only level 899. On the 49th floor, there was a level 999 elf ancestor waiting for him. Bai suddenly understood, the second brother's happiness. Fuck, I was so proud of my handsomeness that I forgot to keep the whole body. A priceless corpse was gone as soon as it was gone. The huge corpse fell down and was instantly wiped out, no longer existing. Bai wished he could go to the abyss and kill a demon god in order to relieve the hatred in his heart. Eternal Tower. Bai has done too many embarrassing things, not one more. Congratulations to player Shura for reaching the 48th level SSSS level evaluation. On the 48th floor, Bai thought for a while and did not move forward. With that said, Bai started to settle the scores. The 48th floor. I understand not only the boredom of the third brother, but also the invincibility of the second brother. That's a tough one. It's not that easy to kill alone. Holding the sword, Bai looked around and found that there was not a single living monster left. Today is a fruitful day. Boom. Compared with money, Handsomeness is worthless. Why? But a perfect score of 100? Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 717. After the challenge was over, Yebai didn't spend much time sorting out the harvest from the challenge, which was pitiful. For him, there was nothing he could do. The difficulty of the Eternal Tower increases gradually, and the further you go, the harder it gets. But the increase in difficulty cannot keep up with the speed at which the most powerful seeds of the human race become stronger. In other words, it would be a real joke if Shura, who has reached level 899, is trapped in a certain level. It's not that the Eternal Tower is too weak, but that Shura is too strong. Of course, Yebai probably didn't expect that he would be here today. Even Shura among the most powerful seeds is still the most powerful seed. Back then, among Nightmare, Wilhen and Xiaoao, who stayed in the Eternal Tower for too long. In front of the most powerful seeds, the Eternal Tower is just a springboard, allowing them to have the most basic combat power. From now on, it's enough to rely on your own hands. Even Yebai can easily create a killer weapon like the source of greed and disaster. For today's Yebai, between the 49th and 100th floors, maybe the last 10 floors are still a little missed. The most critical thing is the last 10 floors, especially the 95th floor. It's related to SSS level talents. Yebai was calculating in his mind what to do next. After negotiating with Taling, Yebai had 3 opportunities to leapfrog the challenge. He could designate the 3rd floor and pass the level in advance. Of course Yebai would not choose the 100th floor. There is no need for the 99th floor. Third brother lives there. Yebai has been there more than once. Yebai doesn't know the information about the further layers yet. There is not much news even within the human race. However, as the number of awakenings of the Eye of Insight increases, there is still a slight improvement in ability. I can lift it, but only a little. Therefore, other layers of information automatically appeared in front of Yebai's eyes. 97th floor, there is nothing. My evaluation is that it is not as good as the 95th floor. 96th floor, its only advantage is that it is above the 95th floor. Level 95, choose me, choose me, choose me. I can't allow you to live without what the other strongest people have. It can be seen that Chinyan is really working hard. Yebai resisted the desire to roll his eyes and began to paint the cake for Tanyan. The 95th floor is now an alternative. The premise is that you show other information first. Yebai's tone began to gradually change. And you've only awakened a few times, so even if I can bring you out, you'll still have to follow me. You should think clearly and don't turn something that could have been a win-win situation into a win-win situation for me alone. Hiss. When Shura mentioned the word win-win, Tanyan really had no ability to resist. There is no way, it understands Shura too well. As a result, every layer of information appeared before Yebai's eyes. Looking at all the floors, only the 95th floor is worth visiting. For Yebai, the other layers are pretty much the same. Either the difficulty is too high and he is not completely sure to reach 100% exploration. Either the reward is too low and it will not greatly improve Yebai's current strength. In addition to the 95th floor, there is also the 98th floor, which Yebai also marked. The trial of the blood ancestor is on this level. Leaving aside the previous generation of blood ancestors, Yebai also has 2 younger blood clan brothers, Cain and Dracula, who can be taken to the blood ancestors trial to test them out. It would always be good if a new blood ancestor could be born. After setting 2 goals, Yebai had a problem with the last one. Which layer is better to choose? Where is the dragon clan's forbidden area? Yebai raised his eyebrows and immediately remembered that he still had a golden dragon that he hadn't taken yet. It wasn't until the sky was slightly dim that Lan Bangxian finished the milk tea in his hand. Xiao Xiao wanted to say that he was a shadow, Where did he have the backbone? His current schedule is very tight. He spends most of his time delving into his origins, and also takes time to study Win-Win and other matters. After deciding on the number of layers, he had no choice but to shut his mouth and stand quietly. After actually sitting down, Yebai was happy. Although he is already a college student, Yebai still has a sense of urgency about the upcoming college entrance examination. He never expected that an uninvited guest in the eternal forest was waiting for him. Show some backbone. Next to Xiao Zial, a swordsman in blue was drinking tea. There was a cup of milk tea in front of Lan Bangxian, and he made a note to add less pearls to make it twice as sweet. Villain. Yebai. He just sat there, sipping milk tea, with Yebai quietly accompanying him. Why the hell are you drinking milk tea? He picked up the milk tea in a serious manner, without inhaling it, just took a sip. Yebai can only say that the older you get, the more fun you have. If you say that, wouldn't it mean that even Yingju would be scolded? Wilhen wants to see you. If something happens, let it go, I'll update it later. Drinking tea at 3 o'clock in the morning? In this situation, there are many mistakes. The body of the greedy golden dragon was still cold. Yebai couldn't let the body wander outside. He had to bring it back and bury it in a grand ceremony. Aren't you the one who asked for double sweetness? On the 82nd floor, Yebai silently wrote down this number. But then I thought about it, Yingju is also a shadow. It is too sweet. You are carrying the sword box on your back, and you look like a fairy, as if you have been banished to the earth. There is nothing wrong with your posture or your style. He raised his head, looked at Yebai with his eyes, and said. Yebai couldn't bear to drink tea after 3 o'clock. Yebai returned to the eternal forest, ready to start a new day of hard work. Lan Bangxian was sitting at the tea table drinking tea. Yebai had no choice but to step forward and help him add some peanuts, melon seeds, mineral water. Yebai also endured it. Looking at Xiao Zial, who was shivering, Yebai said angrily. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 718. Wilhen wants to see him. Yebai was stunned, feeling that it was not a good thing. Moreover, it is normal for the second brother to ask Lan Bangxian to speak to him if he wants to see him. The problem is, you drank milk tea here for 3 hours before you opened your mouth. This is a shame. Considering that he might not be able to defeat Lan Bangxian yet, Yebai decided to endure it a little longer. He asked tentatively, shall we set off now? Lan Bangxian ate the last pearl before speaking calmly. Wilhen wants to see you, what does it have to do with me? Yebai. You said it so early. This person is outrageous. Yebai almost awakened the Huo family bloodline on the spot and taught Lan Bangxian the 3-character classic on the spot. Then I'm going to the first abyss. Yebai took 2 steps, still a little worried, and slipped back. He said shamelessly. The abyss is dangerous, why don't you send me away? Lan Bangxian nodded and agreed. Indeed, you are quite dangerous to the abyss. Yebai. What a sword! It was obvious that although Yebai also used a sword, he was not recognized by the Kendo Kwakwa duo Lan Bangxian. There was no other way. The second brother was still waiting, so Yebai had no choice but to leave with Xiao Zial. As for what the blue banished immortal wants to do when he stays in the eternal forest, Yebai couldn't guess and didn't bother to guess. However, Tanyan after awakening for the 4th time reminded Yebai of something. Blue banished immortal is an SS level talent, extraordinary talent, which is extremely close to an SSS level talent. In other words, if Xueju did not exist in the human race, the first generation of the strongest would be Lan Bangxian. This is a bit interesting. Yebai always knew that Lan Bangxian was strong, very strong. Even if he is stuck at level 989 and cannot step into the heavenly god of war, his strength is still very terrifying. Huo Tianwang and Lan Bangxian have been fighting for their whole lives. Before Huo Tianwang stepped into the heavenly god of war, they always lost more than they won. Moreover, Lan Bangxian was unable to break through, not because he was too weak, but because his talent was too strong and the threshold for upgrading was too high to overcome. The sword in the sword box behind Lan Bangxian has been kept for many years. When the sword is drawn, no one knows how powerful it is. The evaluation given by Dan Yan is very simple, with only 4 words. Can kill the devil. Ye Bai, who had already left, looked at the prompts that appeared in front of him and shook his head with a smile. Interesting. After Ye Bai left, Lan Bangxian threw the milk teacup on the ground. On the big tree nearby, several black words appeared. Littering, fine 500. Lan Bangxian nodded and accepted the punishment. Ask Shura for it. Film 4. After saying that, Lan Bangxian walked forward. He passed by the memorial monument and stopped for a moment, looking at the many last words on it. No matter how you look at it, Wilhan said he was at the pinnacle of swordsmanship. Of course, Lan Bangxian noticed. Shura added. Where did this kid copy this poem from? Everyone knows Shura's literary level. This is not something Shura can write. Lan Bangxian was thoughtful and nodded slightly. Another day, let him copy me a sentence too. He didn't stay long, but continued walking forward. He had seen this monument more than once. Soon, Lan Bangxian came to the Eternal Tower. He was now standing on the first floor, looking forward. Soon, an old man appeared in front of him, and the two looked at each other across the tower. Whatever you are planning. Looking at the blue sky in the tower, Lan Bangxian looked indifferent, and there was no fluctuation in his eyes. Stay out of my way. After saying that, regardless of Lan Tiankai's reaction, Lan Bangxian began to climb the stairs. He stepped on the void, step by step, and soon reached the 99th floor. Without knocking, he pushed open the door on the 99th floor, and Lan Bangxian walked straight in with the sword box on his back. In front of him was Xiaoao, the most powerful person in the human race. Lan Bangxian sat on the ground and spoke calmly. His words were not surprising and he continued to die. I didn't kill you back then, you owe me a favor. The Taoist wearing a white cloud Taoist robe had a butterfly lying on his shoulder. When Lan Bangxian broke in, the Taoist slowly opened his eyes. The Taoist looked at Lan Bangxian, and he was not surprised by the other party's sudden arrival. There are very few things in this world that can surprise a Taoist. Shura, count it as one. No. The Taoist shook his head and said seriously. You didn't kill me, I owe you my life. He has always been strict. Lan Bangxian was stunned. Obviously he didn't expect Xiaoao to settle accounts like this. Back then, Wilhan created the most powerful position. The most powerful demon god was seriously injured, and the abyss demon god was frightened after hearing this. At this time, Wilhan was truly invincible. Lan Bangxian is also truly the second best person in the world. If Xiaoao dies, Wilhan had no murderous intentions towards Xiaoao. Ye Bai heard Xiaoao say this. Xiaoao didn't mention another thing. It is true that Wilhan never had murderous intentions, but Lan Bangxian did. Humans are complex creatures. Noble people can be despicable. Some people have a good reputation for a lifetime, but they are eventually destroyed in one day. Villains can also stand up and become heroes at certain moments. Lan Bangxian is a swordsman, and he is very frank whether he is a gentleman or a villain. Killing Xiaoao, the most powerful demon god, will not appear in the world. Wilhan will continue to guard the abyss, and the human race will be stable for another 36 years. As for Xiaoao, Lan Bangxian just sacrificed his life to Xiaoao. Lan Bangxian made no secret of his intention to kill the third generation of the most powerful seeds of the human race. What was even more interesting was that Wilhen did not stop him. Wilhen didn't want to use the sword to kill people. If he wanted to kill someone, he would just come to the door with his sword and kill him. Why bother? When the strength reaches a certain level, planning becomes a joke. Wilhen just believed that Xiaoao, the third generation of the most powerful human race and highly rated by Xueju, would not die so easily. At least he won't die in the hands of Lan Bangxian. As Wilhen expected, Lan Bangxian carried the sword box and found Xiaoao, who had just awakened, even before Yingju. Lan Bangxian thought he was sure of bullying a centenarian who had just awakened his SSS level talent. Bullying a 100-year-old shadow who has awakened a century-old SSS level talent, Lan Bangxian can only win 50-50. The conversation between the two was very short. No one knew the details of the conversation, and only a handful of people even knew that such a conversation had ever taken place. After this conversation, Lan Bangxian gave up his plan to kill Xiaoao. As for what Xiaoao paid, no one knows. No one would know that when Lan Bangxian came to visit, it was the closest Xiaoao had come to death in his life. Therefore, when Lan Bangxian came to visit him again, Xiaoao would say that he owed him a life. Taoist Baiyun looked at Lan Bangxian. He could have said nothing and just watched silently. The most powerful person in the human race today is not Wilhen, but Xiaoao. The invincible existence in the world is also free and easy. If it were Xiaoao before, he would definitely not speak. However, he was a little curious at this time. Since you are curious, ask. Xiaoao asked, "What do you want?" "I want a way." Lan Bangxian's answer is also very simple. A way to the upper world. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 719. Leaving aside Lan Bangxian, Ye Bai's progress is going very smoothly. Under the escort of Gabriel and Lucifer, Ye Bai quickly rushed to the first abyss. Since Wilhen wanted to see Ye Bai, he probably had something to talk about. After appearing in the golden version of the first abyss, Ye Bai's eyes flashed with greed without any cover-up. Such a huge abyss of gold belongs to you, so what's wrong with looking at it twice? Unfortunately, I can't get it now. After entering the first abyss, Ye Bai sent the bodyguard away. The most powerful human race seed, what kind of bodyguard does it need? Since Wilhen is in the first abyss, Ye Bai is invincible. He has the confidence. Not to mention the demon god, you are not afraid even if the most powerful demon god comes. Soon, Ye Bai found Wilhen, who was teaching Xuemeng how to practice swordsmanship. De Menzi was carrying the golden tree, and wielded the bloody giant hammer with his free hand, very vigorously. Wilhen stood aside and pointed. Noticing Shura's gaze, Wilhen looked sideways and spoke Ruya. "Where's your dad?" "Ye Bai." Wilhen and Ye Bai said this once more than 70 years ago. Now it's back. It seemed that Wilhen was probably remembering what happened back then. On the contrary, Xuemeng, who was practicing swordsmanship, raised his eyebrows. "Shura is going to become a brother? If you think about it, it doesn't do any good." According to Xuemeng's experience in dealing with Shura, the best way to get along with Shura is not to get along with him. If you are close to the strongest, there will be disaster. Seeing Shura coming, Wilhen waved his hand and sent Xuemeng away. Next, there is a conversation between SSS level talent owners. No one else is welcome to enter. Xuemeng, who had finished learning the sword, walked away carrying the golden tree. Staying with his second father is also very stressful for him. The feeling of oppression from the strongest is no joke. What's more, Xuemeng has been living in the shadow of Wilhen Kendo since he learned the sword. Wilhen plus Shura, double the pressure, run. At this moment, the big man couldn't wait to turn on the fierce horse mode and escape. After Xuemeng left, the great demon god lying on the ground began to pretend to be dead, closing off all perceptions and turning a blind eye to anything that happened in the outside world. This is not something he can hear. Looking at the big demon lying on the ground, Ye Bai couldn't control his murderous intention, and he couldn't wait to see the murderous intent written on his face. It was this guy who killed Xueju. Xuemeng once said that he would kill the great demon in this life. Crazy Huo, even if he is crazy, still wants to exchange lives with the great demon god. For Ye Bai, as long as there is a chance and conditions permit, he doesn't mind killing the opponent. Right now, Ye Bai has more important things to do. The second generation of the most powerful humans and the fourth generation of the most powerful seeds are just wandering around the first abyss. Ye Bai was about to speak but stopped. Second brother, you still alive? Wilhen said bluntly, and even mocked ruthlessly. Can't you tell whether it's dead or alive? Hearing this from Wilhen, Ye Bai couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It's not that Ye Bai doesn't believe in Xiaoao, but it's more important to listen to the person involved in this matter. Wilhen slowly gave Ye Bai another blow with his sword. Sooner or later you will die. His tone was very relaxed, not like he was talking about himself, but more like he was talking about something that had nothing to do with him. In fact, among the many strong men who fought against the most powerful demon god, Wilhen was the only one who survived. Xueju once had a chance to live, but he gave up. Ye Bai. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. He thought that this conversation would not be easy, but he did not expect that the second brother would be so free and easy and make it clear right away. I called you here to teach you swordsmanship. Wilhen said casually. Ye Bai listened indifferently, thinking about another thing in his heart. Suddenly, a murderous aura enveloped Ye Bai, and he suddenly woke up. The second brother is still the same second brother, the grumpy old brother who doesn't show off even if he can take action. Wilhen was very satisfied with Ye Bai's reaction and continued. You don't have to worry about my affairs. Ye Bai scratched his head, not knowing what to say. It doesn't matter if it's Wilhen. There are already a lot of people worrying about it, and having one more person like you is of no use. In less than 5 minutes of meeting, Wilhen humiliated Xiu countless times. In terms of humiliating cultivation, Ye Bai is willing to call him the strongest. Wilhen pointed at the sword slaves around him and said. You know Xiaoao created sword slave. I said stop. Ye Bai knew that it was rude to interrupt someone, especially his second brother. This is not a matter of politeness, it is a matter of fate. But Ye Bai still wanted to ask. Sword slave, wasn't it created by you, second brother? Laugh. Wilhen smiled and asked. Why did I create the sword slave? Isn't it tiring to have a bunch of swords following me? They won't praise me. If you co-author it, you won't feel tired anymore, right? For a time, Ye Bai felt that there were too many things to talk about. Shadow was created by Wilhen, Sword Slave was created by Xiaoao. Ye Bai discovered that Yingju, the inventor of history, was truly worthy of his title. If you don't invent history for a day, you will feel uncomfortable all over. There really wasn't a word of truth in this old liar's mouth. Ye Bai continued to listen to Wilhen's words. They will record everything I say and do, every sword I throw. After I die, all the sword slaves will enter the eternal forest and wait for the destined person. You can also use sword slave to try to locate Baiju. This was the most talkative time Wilhen had ever had since Ye Bai met Wilhen. Ye Bai didn't expect that. Sword slave was created for this purpose. More importantly, Ye Bai always felt uncomfortable when he heard the word death in Wilhen's mouth. If we say that when Xueju died in the battle, Yebai had not traveled through time and could not do anything. So, now that Wilhen is still alive, Yebai still has a chance to try to save him. Yebai would rather make a mistake than do nothing. There are very few things he wants to do, but this is the one in front of him. That. Yebai tried to organize the language. Is there any way, not to die? Don't die. These two words are easy to say. Generally speaking, when a strong human being dies, he can still turn into a shadow. Even if Xiao Zial dies, he can be resurrected. However, it is not easy to revive a seriously injured human being. The higher the realm, the stronger the strength, and the harder it is to save someone. Faced with Yebai's problem, Wilhen Rui commented, "If the person who took action had been a little lower in level, a little worse in strength, and a little weaker in swordsmanship, I might still be able to save him." Even if Wilhen considers himself to be the best swordsman in the world, he must still recognize the caliber of the person who makes the move. Yebai. How strong must it be to be praised like this by Wilhen? Based on Yebai's understanding of Wilhen, the leader of the Kendo Boast group, he already guessed who it was. Who else could it be? Why? Wilhen sighed helplessly and shook his head slightly. Unfortunately, I was the one who took action. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 720. The one who took action was Wilhen? When he heard this, Yebai was stunned, and his face suddenly became strange. "Second brother, what are you doing, beating yourself?" Even though he had many doubts in his heart, Yebai did not take the initiative to speak. Since Wilhen mentioned this matter to him, he would definitely finish it. The most powerful person in the human race actually doesn't have the bad habit of being a riddler, except for a certain Shadow 9. In particular, Wilhen, as a swordsman, always goes straight, without so many twists and turns. Haven't you always wanted to learn how to conquer the sky? Wilhen suddenly changed the topic and said, "After today, I will teach you the third way to use it to turn the sky. The first two uses of Wan Tianqing both lock blood, but the restrictions on locking blood are different. Yebai has heard that there are 4 ways to use the word Buan Tianqing. The third type should be traceless. As for the fourth type, if Yebai remembers correctly, it was originally created by Lan Bangxian. Look at other people's swordsmanship talents, and then look at Xue Meng's. Shame on you." Yebai hesitated to speak, wanting to ask what happened back then. Finally, he asked. It wasn't that he was curious, but that Yebai had to figure out the past before he could have an idea to save his second brother. Wilhen tried to organize the language. "Forget it, it's too troublesome to explain." Wilhen suddenly stopped and raised his right hand. His actions were like hailing a taxi on the roadside. Yebai's eyes flashed, and a white colt appeared in front of him. Wow, SSS level talent. Obviously, Tanyan is envious of Baiju. If possible, why wouldn't it want to be a free SSS level talent? However, it followed Shura. If it is completely revealed, the most likely result is to be exploited by Shura. After Baiju appears, Yebai knows what will happen next. It's too troublesome to explain, so it's better to just go and watch it live. Suddenly, Yebai realized a possibility. Since Baiju has always existed, doesn't that mean that every move he makes can be watched by Baiju with his ability to look back in time? That is to say, Wilhen does not need to collect black history at all. With a white horse in hand, there will naturally be a dark history. The kind that cares enough. Yebai Bureau, you need to pay attention to your image. At least, give yourself some more classic lines for the decisive battle with the most powerful demon. When the time comes, let alone future generations reading it, Yebai will be able to praise himself if he sees it himself. If you have idle baggage, you belong." Baiju just flickered, and Yabai felt a familiar feeling well up in his heart. Hold it. This time, he didn't throw up. A Shure who wants to be strong in his life. Wilhen, who was standing next to Yabai, smiled casually and said, "If you want to vomit, just vomit." Yabai has returned to normal, his whole body is soft, his mouth is hard. "I'm fine." Wilhen raised his hand and said seriously. "It will feel better if you spit it out." Hearing Wilhen's kind tone, Yabai's face turned pale. He knew that even if he didn't vomit today, he would still vomit. Yabai thought for a while and punched himself in the stomach. "Vomit." Wilhen on the side nodded with satisfaction and explained. "If you don't vomit now, it will be even more uncomfortable when you go back." He is not a sadist. He will not torture Yabai when he has nothing to do. To take a step back, even if you want to torture Yabai, wouldn't it be better to just pick up the sword and chop him? Where is the need for so much trouble? Putting away the vomit bag, Yabai completed the prescribed process and began to focus on the intermission. Unlike Yabai, Wilhen did not show any discomfort and fully demonstrated the demeanor of a powerful person. Although he said this, his figure was a little dimmer than before. Yabai forced himself not to think about this matter, but to focus on the battle between his second brother and the most powerful demon. Wilhen calculated the time. When Yabai looked towards the abyss of power, the swordsman in white from 36 years ago had just appeared. Unlike Xueju's lone battle, Wilhen was followed by someone else. A Taoist. Yabai's eyes lit up. Xiaoao from 36 years ago had almost achieved the most powerful combat power. Soon, Yabai's heart sank. Because he saw that the Taoist stopped and did not step forward. Not only the Taoist, but also a certain strong man in the shadow also stopped. Wilhen's voice also sounded in Yabai's ears. "He's going to die." Wilhen explained. "No one can come back alive from the mighty demon except me." Yabai. "As expected of you, I don't forget to boast at this time." Wilhen smiled self-deprecatingly and said casually. "In our human race, there must always be one strong person left, right? Xueju can fight to the death, Wilhen can fight to the death, but Xiaoao cannot. The human race can be passionate and heroic, but they must retain the fire of hope. Just like today, Wilhen is still Wilhen, Xiaoao has become the most powerful person in the human race, and they have to protect the next generation of the most powerful seed, which is Shura." Yabai fell into silence again and did not speak. From the moment he came to this world, everyone told Yabai that only 3 of the strongest humans in the human race could resist the abyss. But the strongest, the strongest. What is the strongest person? The pinnacle strong man of an era is unique and only he can be called the strongest. 3 most powerful men, just this sentence is a bad sentence in itself. There is only one most powerful person. It was not until recently, or to be exact, until today, that Yabai fully understood what had happened in the past 100 years. What price has the human race paid to get to this day? What price do we have to pay to keep going? Yabai was in a daze for a while, until he felt murderous intent. He came back to his senses and continued to focus. After the swordsman in white appeared, he stood outside the abyss of the strongest. He came to fight the battle of destiny. This is the fate that all the strongest cannot escape. He didn't believe it. Wilhen wanted to see whether fate was stronger or the broken sword in his hand. Yabai took a deep breath. He suddenly noticed that the abyss of power was not opened. That is to say, the second battle between the most powerful human race and the most powerful demon god is not the appearance of the most powerful demon god at all. Rather, Wilhen is coming to your door. At this moment, Yabai wanted to wave his light stick and shout that his second brother was domineering. Wilhen's next move made Yabai unable to take his eyes off him. Wilhen, the strongest human being with 2 swords at his waist, spoke calmly. "Wake up. Billions of sword lights converged into a huge lightsaber, which hit the Supreme Abyss hard, waking up the sleeping and seriously injured Supreme Demon God. Compared with the treatment of the most powerful demon god, Yabai felt that the wake-up call service he enjoyed was really gentle. The second brother has become more refined and easygoing in recent years. The roar of the Supreme Demon God echoed in the sky above the Supreme Abyss. Soon, his roar was suppressed by a cold and irritable voice. Along with the rain of swords in the sky, I heard the swordsman curse angrily. "Come here, I will reward you with 2 swords."